If you've ever felt like your spiritual life is just this massive roller coaster of incredible highs and, well, deeply frustrating lows, Mark chapter 9 is really going to resonate with you. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into how this source text completely redefines spiritual maturity. We're going to see that true growth, it isn't actually measured by our spectacular highs, but by our everyday, ordinary realities. I mean, we all know this feeling, right? You experience this moment of pure inspiration, maybe profound spiritual clarity where everything just clicks. Prayer feels easy, the truth comes entirely alive, and you feel, honestly, incredibly close to the divine. It's a true mountaintop experience. But then, Monday arrives. You crash right back into the messy, chaotic reality of your ordinary routine. Relationships get difficult again, old habits suddenly reappear, and those doubts you thought you completely conquered, yep, they come surfacing right back up. The text we're unpacking today reminds us that these contrasting experiences aren't a sign that you're failing. Actually, they're just the natural rhythm of the spiritual journey. To wrap our heads around this profound shift, we're going to explore 5 key lessons in this explainer. First, mountain visions and valley realities. Then, the power of honest weakness. Third, surrendering the planned life. Fourth, redefining greatness and inclusivity. And finally, the slow heart transformation. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with part 1, Mountain Visions, Valley Realities. So this perfectly illustrates the core tension we're looking at. Up on the mountain, Jesus is transfigured in absolute glory. Shining with light, standing right alongside these great historical figures, Moses and Elijah. It is literally the ultimate vision of inspiration. But here's the catch. He doesn't let his disciples stay up there. They have to return to the valley, which represents action and reality. It's the place where ordinary life, confusion, and frankly, failure happen. The mountain provides the vision, sure, but the valley, that provides the opportunity to actually live it out. When Peter saw that mountaintop glory, his immediate, deeply human instinct was to say, let's build shelters, let's just stay up here forever. And honestly, who wouldn't want to stay in a place where you feel perfectly secure and inspired? We do the exact same thing when we constantly chase inspiring conferences, new books, or weekend retreats just to escape the daily grind. But the true purpose of a spiritual high isn't to escape life. We go up for the vision, absolutely, but we must come down for the transformation. That inspiration only matters if it prepares us to return to our everyday lives and treat people differently when no one is watching. Moving on to part 2, the power of honest weakness. Because the second they step down from that mountain, it is pure chaos. The disciples who stayed behind, they've just totally failed to heal a suffering boy. So this desperate father brings his son to Jesus, and in this moment of sheer, raw vulnerability, he simply says, I believe, help my unbelief. This raw mixture of faith and doubt, it's comforted people for centuries because it's just so deeply honest. He isn't pretending to have it all together. He just offers exactly what he has.
And this marks a massive paradigm shift in how we view spirituality. Think about it. Pretended faith demands that we eliminate every single doubt before we even approach God. It asks us to hide our fears behind this perfectly polished exterior. But Jesus welcomes the Father's messy, complicated plea. He doesn't reject him for his unbelief. Honest faith is about bringing those doubts forward. The source material makes it super clear. God can work with honest weakness much more easily than polished appearances. True transformation actually begins the exact moment we stop pretending we're stronger than we really are.
Which brings us to part 3, Surrendering the Planned Life. Shortly after this valley encounter, Jesus tells his disciples, for the second time, mind you, that he's going to suffer, die, and rise again. And once again, they completely miss the point. The disciples are dreaming of a conquering hero. They want the victory without the sacrifice, and the growth without the discomfort. Basically, they want the resurrection without ever having to go through the death. But Christ's calling is entirely different. It's a kingdom built through surrender. Now, it is so easy to criticize the disciples here, but if we're being honest with ourselves, we resist the exact same lesson. We all want the shiny new life, but meaningful new life, it always requires letting go of the old one first. So, let's break down what that actually means for us. When Jesus talks about things needing to die before new life can grow, it's not always about our physical future. What needs to go is our pride. It's that deep-seated, exhausting need to control every single outcome. It's our toxic attachment to always being right and those carefully constructed identities we constantly project to the world. Before you can step into the person you are actually meant to be, these internal barriers have got to be released.
Next up is part 4, Redefining Greatness and Inclusivity.
Just picture the absolute irony of this scene. The disciples are literally walking next to the Son of God, and what are they doing? They are arguing over which one of them is the greatest. The human ego is constantly asking, how do I measure up? How does my career, my influence, my spirituality compare to yours? And Jesus responds by doing something completely radical for their status-obsessed culture. He places a child, someone with absolutely zero social standing or power in that society, right smack in the middle of them. He completely flips the script, showing them that greatness isn't found in climbing the ladder or building a massive platform. It's found in loving more deeply, in quiet service, and in caring for those who can do absolutely nothing for you in return.
And wouldn't you know it, the disciples' egos flare right back up again shortly after. They come to Jesus complaining because they saw an outsider, someone not in their specific little group, doing good work in Jesus' name, and they actually tried to stop him. Our human ego just loves ownership, doesn't it? We desperately want to believe our specific group has exclusive access to the truth. But Jesus issues this transformational calling to celebrate love and goodness wherever it happens. Truth doesn't magically become smaller just because someone outside your circle discovers it. True love is never threatened by another person's goodness.
And this leads us to our final section, Part 5, the Slow Heart Transformation. At the end of the chapter, Jesus uses some incredibly dramatic language about cutting off hands or removing eyes if they cause you to stumble. Why the intense imagery? Well, because transformation is serious work. We all have familiar habits, attachments, and toxic patterns that quietly pull us off course. And the crazy part is, we actively defend the very things that keep us stuck. We justify them, we make excuses for them, simply because they're comfortable. So Jesus is lovingly forcing us to ask a profound question. What are you protecting that is preventing you from becoming the person you were created to be? True freedom requires the ruthless courage to finally release the baggage you've been carrying around for years.
This contrast brilliantly synthesizes our entire journey through this explainer. The human ego, represented over and over by the disciples, constantly seeks glory, recognition, absolute certainty, and control. But Christ-like love models the exact opposite. It's about embracing surrender, serving quietly without needing an audience, trusting with an honest, vulnerable faith, and choosing humility over status. The journey outlined here isn't about becoming more impressive, it is entirely about moving away from ego and moving toward love. Which leads us to our final takeaway. When we look back at the dramatic mountaintop experience at the beginning of this story, it's so easy to be blinded by the flashing lights and the literal glory of it all. But ultimately, the real work, the true miracle, isn't found up on that mountain. It's the slow, often painful, but incredibly beautiful transformation of the human heart. It's that process where your ego gradually gives way to love in the messy, unglamorous, ordinary valleys of your everyday life. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. How will you take the light of your own mountaintop inspirations and let it quietly transform the way you walk through the valley tomorrow?